Welcome everyone to Mind Model Mastery Secrets. I am Ashley and I'm here with Blair, and today we are going to talk about procrastination. And as someone that fits slightly into that whole ADHD label, I definitely love this topic and I'm excited to dive in and really identify what is procrastination and how can you move through it so it's not derailing your life. And I am someone that often will bite off a little bit more than I maybe should chew. And so then the overwhelm sets in, and then we get procrastination. So I'm gonna kind of be a guinea pig, but not so much as I have been in the past. But we wanted to talk a little bit first about what is procrastination, because sometimes procrastination gets labeled when it's really not procrastination. It's setting your priorities straight and maybe not emphasizing things that don't need to happen. So, Blair, do you want to tell us a little bit about the differences between prioritizing what's necessary and the difference between procrastination?
Absolutely. So a lot of people think that procrastination is just simply time management.
Yeah.
And that couldn't be further from the truth. When we take a look at neuroscience and how that's been researched and what's happening with that, there's a whole lot to do with the brain and how your brain gets into the sense of overwhelm.
Hmm.
Um, and when your brain gets into that overwhelm, it can go into fight, flight, or freeze. And
Hmm.
some people are prone to fighting their way through it, actually. And so that's great for them. They use the same pressure that triggers other people into procrastination.
Hmm.
It turns them on and it gets them diving in, doing the work big time.
Yeah.
Now, they're not overwhelmingly comfortable because they feel like they're constantly fighting a battle, getting through it, but they're active.
Hmm.
And that usually gets them through that fear factor and most people don't go, I don't even relate to it being a fear, yet your brain does.
Yeah.
So your brain gets into that overwhelm, which is a can be that freeze state in fight, flight, or freeze.
Hmm.
And so that freeze is you want to do active distracting in
Hmm.
that thing. And people distract. I mean, last night I had one of the people reading some of the distractors on the BDE, and they added one called playing solitaire.
Yeah.
So I mean, okay, true that that's a distractor, and that just defers what you need to do. So that's
Yeah.
that's the thing.
It was actually funny that he mentioned that because I just deleted Solitaire off my phone like last week because it was becoming a distractor. So, yeah, I can identify very personally with that one. And that's too, some of the times there's things like solitaire necessarily isn't a bad thing. Like it's probably good for working your brain and not having Alzheimer's. They talk about playing card games or Sudoku and that kind of thing. But when it's keeping you from doing what you need to do, or for me, like I will often get into cleaning. I will clean as a way of distracting myself from the work that needs to be done.
Yep.
And so that's kind of always been my go-to is I will clean the house before I will actually do the things that I don't want to do. But with these higher levels of stress that I have been under, with like going to court and self-representing, I find myself more in the like freeze state instead of the actual distracting, actively distracting state. So, um, I think chatting a little bit about that, like where like you're being effective because you're getting something done versus getting done what needs to be done. And then also the difference between you're not doing something because it's not necessary. Like it as time goes on, it won't be something that needs to even happen. Someone else will do it, however that works. Do you want to talk a little bit about those kind of
Well,
three different areas?
yeah, we one of the things that we went through is there's different ways to manage yourself. And
Hmm.
so one of the key ways is to, start identifying prioritizing.
Yeah.
So is it a priority?
Hmm.
Now, one of the first of the three main ways of moving yourself through this is sort of like an escape plan as you work. And the first one really is get aware.
Hmm.
So you've got to build your awareness of what's going on. And that mind model of an ANPU, awareness, notice, process, understand, that is extremely helpful. But sometimes people don't get it on
Hmm.
an ANPU. So I go, you did sort of something that was very much an ANPU-esque, and that is you felt the awareness of how distracting solitaire was.
Yes.
Okay. And so you go, okay, I'm aware that I'm distracting myself with that. And then the meta pattern of noticing that awareness. So it's awareness, notice, and then you're aware that you're noticing.
Hmm.
Then you say, I got to do something about this. And that's where, hey, I got to take an action. And the action is delete.
Hmm.
Okay. So when you do that, you've moved yourself into an actual set of behaviors that help you transition out of procrastinating. Now, one of the things that I've noticed about myself and other people that procrastinate, when they do the procrastination, let me just ask you this question. When you've stopped yourself from procrastinating, how often do you sort of acknowledge and reward yourself for actually doing the task that needs to be done?
I probably do often. I don't know if that's common, but I know as someone that I've never been diagnosed as ADHD, never want to even explore that. But I know that that's something that when we were looking at my son being ADHD, I checked every box.
Okay.
And so I know that I've always been that, like in school, like I remember very early on, I always would reward myself for doing tasks for school that I didn't want to do. And I was very reward driven. I think that's why I did so well in business as well, is because there was a reward at the end, especially in network marketing.
Yep.
So yeah, so I've always been pretty good at rewarding myself. And when there's things I really don't want to do, I'm like, okay, at the end of this, I'm gonna go out or I'm gonna do XYZ. And so I've been pretty good at that personally.
Okay, good. Now, most people aren't.
Yeah.
Okay, you have an anomaly there.
Yeah.
So you're a little anomalous amongst other things.
Yeah.
So anyway, no, it's like seriously, a lot of people don't, some people do, and then some people try to but don't.
Hmm.
So they sort of acknowledge that, but they do it by reinforcing their success with the same behavior that they're using to distract themselves. So that's problematic.
Hmm.
That distracting behavior is not something that needs to be used as a reward. It needs to be something bigger, different, whatnot from that scenario. So that's very important. So, you have to be able to you know, change your perspective, your point of view. And if your point of view aligns with the same thing when you're procrastinating, you're reinforcing the procrastination, not reinforcing the reward.
Yeah.
So, because you're using the same thing. So you said going out, but you wouldn't have gone out. That wouldn't have been something you'd normally reward yourself with by just deferring or distracting yourself. You don't go out, correct?
Yeah, and it almost becomes like a toxic flip of I have to earn those activities. I have to
Correct.
earn those things. And so that was something you mentioned on the BD as well, was that like you had to teach yourself how to have fun. And
Yep.
so that's something that Derek has really, my partner has really helped me with, is that I don't have to earn the fun. I can just go and have fun just for fun's sake. And so there is like a double-edged sword there in my life where I have that toxic I don't deserve to do that because I didn't complete what I needed to complete. And then I often kind of sabotage myself slightly in the sense that I try to fit too much in and too much on my plate, more than what is reasonable. So,
Right.
yeah.
So, one of the things I didn't bring up in there
Yeah.
is Also using a Pomodoro
Hmm.
model.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know about it, it's just get a timer, an
Yeah.
egg timer. And I believe um, Pomodoro stands for or is a Italian
Hmm.
for tomato.
Yes.
And this guy wound up having an egg timer that was in the shape of a tomato, and he used to set it for 30 minutes. And so when you set it for 30 minutes and you do the task for 30 minutes, then you give yourself either a 5 or 10 minute break afterwards, and then go back to continuing working or doing something else.
Hmm.
A very effective way to um, break out procrastination.
Yes.
For me, I'm working on um, my parents have both passed, and I have an art collection that I have to deal with one way or the other.
Hmm.
So I finally got it up into my condo from my truck, well, from the storage, and it was sitting there in the hall. And whenever I looked at it, it was too big to deal with all at once. So the next strategy for dealing with things that you're procrastinating on is chunk them down,
Yeah.
break them down into doable things. So I've got two hands. I walk past that 2 or 3 times a day. So I can take, four, three, four, five, six, frames and put them over where I need to photograph them and take care of them so I can put them into the consignment place where I'm going to consign my art to.
Yeah.
So that took me about 2 days after it's sitting there for more than a week
Hmm.
because I then chunked it down
Yeah.
and it becomes overwhelming,
Hmm.
all of the emotional overwhelm with all of the artwork and my parents passing and that sort of thing. And yesterday was my sister's birthday, who's now also passed.
Hmm.
So I get all of these emotional triggers
Yeah.
that come up. Are they huge? No. But are they triggers? Yes.
Hmm.
So it creates this avoidance, this
Yeah.
this whole thing. So what can I do to move forward in spite of that?
Yeah.
That's simply for me making them small
Yeah.
and seeing just when I do that, it becomes simpler for me to break things down so that I can move from point A to point B and move through whatever it is that I feel overwhelmed by. And the funny thing is, things that we procrastinate on do not have to be functionally huge things. They
Hmm.
are generally going to be emotionally huge
Yeah.
things. What?
Well,
Talk.
well, that's my situation right now. Like,
Yeah,
it's emotionally big because of how my kids feel about living in two homes where one is abusive. And so I can see their emotions around it. Like there's a lot of emotional pressure for me to get them out of that space, both for their well-being, but also because that's their desire. And so it's very challenging emotionally. Like I have to have my disclosure in by this Friday. Me collecting and taking screenshots of emails and attendance and text messages, not a big deal. But it's an emotional of, is this everything I'm going to need? Is there going to be things that I need to rely on that I don't have? Is the judge going to allow this? And all that kind of stuff. And I'm submitting t text messages that my daughter sent us from her biological mother's phone or like iPad, like her personal iPad at that house. And
right.
I got permission from my daughter, knowing full well that there's going to be backlash on her when her mom sees these
Yep.
messages. So there's a lot of emotional weight. It's not a hard task. It's it's not it's somewhat time consuming, but it's emotional.
Yeah. And that's where the weight comes in.
Hmm.
And that weight becomes the pressure on the brain.
Yeah.
The brain says, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah.
This is not where I need to be.
Hmm.
So it shifts.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you want to distract. You want to move away. You want to, sit down and watch TV. You want
Yeah.
to play a game. You
Yeah.
want to play, you know, Sudoku or
Yeah.
cards
Yeah.
or the solitaire or something.
Hmm.
But it's those things that just sort of waste the mental energy um and I go, you know what, time depletes that mental pressure, that emotional pressure,
Yeah.
and that's handy. Unfortunately, it's not effective.
Hmm.
And so we know that, and then do we beat ourselves up with more emotional pressure?
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Well,
Doing
yeah, that's exactly where it's at. It's like trying to get myself more proactive so that I don't beat myself up. And yeah, so
well,
definitely.
that's where the Pomodoro
Yeah.
works. You set it for 30 minutes. The timer goes off. Thank God I can take a break. I
Yeah.
can distract myself. And then, 5, 10 minutes later, I can go back. I can start again. And then when you do it the first time, that getting that break was like that little mental cookie where you got relief
Hmm.
from the pressure.
Yeah.
And then the second time you go back, you know that you're going to get that relief again.
Hmm.
That's the good thing because then you get a bit of a positive feedback loop of saying, okay, I did this, I got there, it's done. And
Yeah.
it's time bound. And that doesn't like the timer goes off and you feel, okay, the bell rings and you go, hey, I did it. I made it.
Yeah.
I got through this one too.
Yeah.
And that's great. Now, sometimes it gets to the point where your timer goes off, but you're in a flow with it.
Hmm.
So extend it a little bit.
Yeah.
But the key thing here is to remember to absolutely take care of yourself.
Hmm.
And when you take care of yourself, you take that time out and you give yourself that break, whatever that is. Um, you know, Try not to make it food related, just sharing, because if you spike your glucose and then you get into glucose crashes, and then you're really tired, doesn't work well. So,
Well said.
yeah,
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I was watching a different like information about the Pomodoro and they said even just taking 5 to 10 seconds just to breathe and
yeah,
calm, it does so much for your brain and your body. And if you don't, you can actually build up insulin resistance
yep,
because you get into a fight or flight state just by that go, 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 go state. And so yeah, there's a lot of different factors that play into this, and giving yourself that time block is definitely one of the most effective things that you can do. And then giving yourself some sort of break and relief after I used to rescue dogs and work with people that would I'd re rescue them, rehabilitate them, and then find them new homes. And so I had a lot of people that would struggle with off-leash dog parks. And I feel like this is kind of fitting. And they would be like, "Yeah, my dog will never come to me ever, and it's like impossible to leave the dog park, so we just don't do it anymore." And I'm like, "Well, it's the only time you leave the dog park, or the only time you call your dog to you and put on the leash." When you're leaving the dog park. Because, yeah, it's gonna go crazy and never want to come back to you because it knows it's leaving. And so I call my dogs back to me, put on the leash for like 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 30 seconds, and release them over and over again so they don't associate it with something negative. And I
right,
think that we do that a lot too, where it's like, okay, I have to power through and work my face off. And so then when it comes time to actually getting yourself prepped and at your desk, it's like, well, I don't want to do this. I'm going to be stuck there for hours.
yep,
So, yeah, I think that it's good to have those little tricks, I guess.
yep. And it's training principles as opposed to tricks. Um, I had a dog tucker that I trained,
Yeah.
and I went into people training first. But I found that a lot of the principles that I use with training and getting people to change their behaviors, I applied to Tucker as well. And that was one of them.
Yeah.
Just what you were saying, just how not put a leash on your employee and no, just kidding. Sorry, warped brain syndrome here. But but seriously, just going out there and just doing it so
Yeah.
that you interrupt it and
Hmm.
that you have it so that you can change your cadence.
Hmm.
And how quickly do you go through these things so that you can actually get to a reward?
Yeah.
And when do you need a reward? Because sometimes you've done a very difficult task that doesn't take that long, but you did it.
Yeah.
Well, do you bother rewarding yourself for that? And that's something that some people don't do. I just started doing some of these things um, because it was such an emotional, overwhelmed state for dealing with the storage unit for my divorce, my mom's and father's effects from their funerals and that sort of thing. So it was, lots of emotion. But finally, I just broke down and I hired somebody to do it. But
Hmm.
I was supervising. So I made sure that I was always 20 to 30 feet back from that whole thing and didn't dive in there and didn't start picking up stuff and saying, I can't let this go. Those were all the things that I had to let go.
Yeah.
And so I was mentally ready to not procrastinate anymore. I was mentally ready to let it go, but I didn't want to do the thing that I knew that I did before, which would be walk in the storage unit and then have memory after memory after memory of each thing that was in there.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't part with them.
Yeah.
So just didn't work.
Hmm.
But this time, getting distance on something was highly effective.
Yeah.
And then just hiring for, junk removal.
Hmm.
So it worked extremely well, just getting junk kings in and making it happen. It worked extraordinarily well.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
other than the Pomodoro, are there any like good tips? Like, cause like for me, like I can get into that fight mentality when I'm in that procrastination emotional state, but it's usually down to the wire, you know? And so even with my business, I would have ebbs and flows significantly because I could make really big things happen in the last 10% of the month, the year, whatever it was. And I was really, really good at making really big things happen in that small amount of time. And I know there's like the 80/20 rule there too. But for me, with court, that's something that's extremely stressful to wait until that 11th hour. And so, what other tips would you say to help people move out of that state so that they can be more in a proactive state than following that like 80/20 rule where you get 80% of the work done in the last 20% of the time?
Yeah. Well, one of the things, I mean, we all know and have heard of AI and
Mhm.
ChatGPT
Yeah.
and stuff like that. One of the things that I've done too recently is use ChatGPT to help me chunk down and
Mm-hmm.
say, what are the logical chunks of information in this project that I can break it out into?
Yeah.
And how can I put this into my schedule?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's there yet, but I did see a thing with ChatGPT and its own agents.
Mm.
So agents are coming into AI agents are there, and it's calendaring. So it knows what you're doing if you fed it in that information. It knows what you're up to. So get it to put it into your calendar in appropriate time blocked chunks,
Hmm.
and then come back and get you a way of acknowledging what you've done so that you're using AI as a basic accountability coach
Hmm.
so that you get it done and you have to report back to it. Now, will it harass you effectively like a real person will? No, not yet.
Hmm.
But, you know, it will be able to remind you and then request a follow-up
Yeah.
on it. And so that's good. Not great, but better than nothing. And so if you aren't feeling confident in doing anything else, then just do that. Accountability coaches are a big deal
Hmm.
and they're used all the time.
Hmm.
And so I go to um, an accountability coaching session every day where I report in what am I going to do today? What are my objectives? What did I do that? And then tomorrow I come back in and say, this is what I got done yesterday. This is what I got done. I'm planning to do today. Now, extremely helpful to stop the procrastination.
Yeah.
So, because I don't know about you, but when it's just me,
Hmm.
I find it so much easier for me to ignore myself
Yeah.
and ignore doing something for somebody else.
Hmm. Yeah.
Now, one of the biggest, toughest lessons I'm still working on with
Hmm.
me is to literally hold myself accountable for me to keep my promises to me.
Hmm.
Because who do we keep promises to? Everybody else.
Yeah.
Do we keep our promises to ourselves? So many people don't. And I fall into that category.
Yeah.
So now it's about, in the last month and a half, it's been really focusing in for me to keep my promises to myself so I can become self accountable. And
Mhm.
that's important.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never found accountability to be very effective for me. And I was talking to a mentor and she said I just haven't found a good enough accountability partner yet. But I definitely struggle with that, keeping promises to myself. And I find that one of the big, like, society, the only thing that really keeps me there is with, like, court, for example. Legally, I have to do certain things. And if it doesn't fall into that category, I find that because I have always worked for myself and always kind of done my own thing, I struggle with it probably more than the average person does because I've been able to procrastinate, I've been able to justify and do things like that and still have success. So it's almost trained my brain that it's okay in a lot of ways. So,
So true. Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's um a key element here because we're reinforcing emotions that are ineffective. uh, They are ineffective.
Yeah.
So we keep on deferring as opposed to pushing through
Hmm.
and getting it done. Now, does it need to be pushed through? So one of the things that I was working with, one of my very successful clients, is I flipped it around and I said, if you don't do this, what are the consequences of you not doing it?
Hmm.
Well, those consequences were pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
Now, what happens when you do this? Well, at least the thing was business related, and it gave him an opportunity to grow his business.
Hmm.
But if he didn't take it, he never had that opportunity.
Yeah.
So he can't move forward without opportunities.
Hmm.
One of the things that I had him practice doing was getting curious about exploring opportunities
Yeah.
and seeing the possibilities with opportunities. Well, when people start seriously diving into those opportunities, they start building a better life for themselves and they see it. And
Hmm.
then they track their pathways to being more effective and more successful.
Yeah.
And that's huge. So
Hmm.
they have incremental wins. Now, instead of beating themselves up for every failure they had, they looked at their wins and
Hmm.
started realizing that if I go out and network this way every time, every week, and put in the time and effort weekly on this, not monthly, weekly on this, then all of a sudden he's going to track. I had him literally track how many wins did he have in a month? How many wins did he have over a year?
Hmm.
All of a sudden, he's having one or two significant wins a month.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Hmm.
And so that changes a person's trajectory in their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that has to be done with being curious to figure this stuff out, but being focused enough to say, this is what I want.
Hmm.
And so you go, okay, this is the thing that I want, I need to move before towards, I want to move towards, and it shifts the overwhelm
Yeah.
from barriers to behaviors of success.
Yeah. When you talk about that, it reminds me of the igniting the buying conversation of that, like like we worked in sales together for a while, and it
Yes.
wasn't about pain, it was about fear. And so your method was fear, or sorry, pain, dream, or sorry,
No, no,
I'm
fear and dream. Fear and dream,
I'm getting ahead
quantify
of
close.
myself. Yeah, so fear, dream, quantify, close. And so I think about like myself with so many different aspects. Um, like I also shared this on the podcast, like I was in a vehicle accident. And so I have a lot of inflammation in my body. I ended up gaining weight because I couldn't move the same way as I used to move and do the same exercises as I did. And then it got to a point where it was kind of too far gone in a sense. And there was a lot of pain in that. Like in my head, I was too far gone. And so there was a lot of pain and I didn't do anything about it, right? And it's interesting because what really was the tipping point, once again, in my life was that fear. And it is the motivator in my life right now is my children, is the fear that they're going to have to continue to live in a toxic, abusive place if I can't be successful in getting them out of it. And um I did a lot of research because I have a brain injury, and it was how do I get my brain functioning more effectively so that I am at the top of my game doing a lawyer job that I am not qualified for at all. And so, how can I be my best and how can I show up my best? And it ended up being diet related, was what my research led to. And in that diet, I have now stuck to it. I've lost 35 pounds. And it was never for that intent. It was for my brain. And so, of course, most people would rather not carry excess weight and all that kind of stuff. But the pain, me being in physical pain, was not a motivating factor for me. So I procrastinated it. It wasn't necessary, quote unquote, because I wasn't extremely obese or anything like that, where it was like causing other issues or anything like that. But it was affecting inflammation, but I probably in my head could justify that that would happen regardless because I was hit by a truck. And
Literally,
so,
not metaphorically.
yeah. And so there's a lot of like, it is what it is kind of thing. And so it came down to I need to be quick. I need to be on my feet. I need to be able to respond like as someone that is cross-examining someone else and being cross-examined and being able to be quick on my feet because I don't know the traditional like court process. I'm kind of going in there blind. I've done it a little bit, but it still is a little bit blind. I'm not a lawyer. And so I made it a priority because the fear of not being able to give, especially my daughter, because she's very, very adamantly done and over the abuse and over the toxic situation, the fear of not being able to give her a happy space. In her words, she says when she's with us, she's thriving, and when she's at the other house, someone is creating anxiety and turmoil in her life.
Right.
And so for me to not remove that for her, that fear was too big. I had to remove that fear. So, anyways, that was just a little personal story.
Little personal vent there, just
Yeah.
getting that off.
Yeah.
But it's a driver. And see, that's
Yes.
the other side of the coin here.
Yeah.
If we don't ask ourselves those questions, like if I don't do this, what happens?
Yeah.
If I do this, what happens? These types of basic questions to query ourselves
Hmm.
actually help us figure out which behaviors do we want.
Yeah.
And then it's about setting priorities.
Hmm.
And when we set the priorities, a lot of things we put pressure on ourselves to do, we don't need to do.
Yeah.
But then there's other things that we barely register that are actually pretty huge priorities, but we treat them as everyday things.
Yeah.
So we've got to be able to discern the difference.
Hmm.
And I haven't found a better way other than simple questioning.
Yeah.
Is, where am I? Is this working for me? And if so, how can I do more of it or make it more effective for me?
Yeah. And I think that's the very big elephant in the room is that we have to believe that we're capable of changing things.
as opposed to believing that we can't. But I want to follow up with that elephant in the room. Do we have to believe it right up front? No.
Hmm.
Like that's the whole thing. Because a lot of times people say, I don't believe that this can change.
Yeah.
And that's the excuse that they use for not doing it.
Yeah.
And for me, I used to use that one decades ago. But when I figured out that it doesn't matter whether or not I believe in it or not, or whether I believe I can do it. Did you believe that you could be the lawyer before you started figuring out how to be the lawyer?
Probably not. We had a lawyer hired.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so one of the things that you wind up doing is going, okay, I need to do the research. I need to do this. I want to be able to be aware of what's happening with that lawyer. And then all of a sudden you go, hold it, I'm doing all this stuff. And you probably had one or two things where he said, that's a good idea. And he hadn't come up with it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, boom, you're going, I don't need him. I can do this myself.
Yeah.
And you have that insight. Fine, you're not the trained lawyer, but can you think in a way that works with the law effectively?
Yeah.
And the short answer is yes. And you've had lots of successes so far.
Yeah.
Not quite as big as the one that you're preparing for, but a lot of successes.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's where the belief wouldn't have been as effective as a word, but you have to be willing to be curious of things being
exactly.
different. Yeah.
That's right. You've got to be curious and you have to figure out what to do or have a behavior. Same
Hmm.
difference between doing and behaving.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in my book. So
Yeah.
you got to be able to do,
Yeah.
and you got to be curious to figure out what to do and
Yeah.
how to do it.
Yeah.
And when you do that, almost anything is possible.
Hmm. Because it breaks down that barrier of not knowing what you don't know.
Exactly. So, and especially with the law, it's about figuring out what the precedents are
Mhm.
and how to think about it so that you can demonstrate that this is what has happened before. This is a reasonable path to take given the circumstances, because these circumstances are very similar to this case, and this case.
Yeah.
And the judges in those cases ruled in favor of this.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you have precedent on your side.
Hmm.
And that's so critical.
Yeah.
And the ability to know that you're not procrastinating because you're doing the work and you look at yourself and you just get it done.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, the artwork,
Hmm.
it's there waiting for a time allotment. Monday, Tuesdays, and this is Wednesday right now, are all filled up until right after here.
Hmm.
Then I don't have another meeting for the rest of the day. So what do I have? Time to dig out more of the art in my back room and set it up, ready to start flipping through it, taking pictures one after another, and then setting up and doing that. But first things first, it's just to take the photographs. And
Yeah.
then second thing, put all the photographs in the same file folder of pictures.
Yeah.
Third thing is go to my computer where I actually have the site up, sitting there ready to go so that I can sign the forms, do what I need to do, and upload the pictures
Yeah.
so they can do something, say yes or no to that. So I can at least do one thing. So did you notice my model of
Hmm.
continuously breaking it down?
Yeah.
And I don't have to do that all today.
Yeah.
Between now and Friday would be perfect
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that I don't overwhelm myself. But
Yeah.
I do want to get it done prior to the following Friday because that's when I go in and get my hip replaced.
Yeah.
So, and then I won't be able to move around much for, about 5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's eating the elephant one bite at a time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
And
Yeah.
taking those little quick breaks.
And then acknowledging how effective that was, or where might I, like that was very good, Blair, but can I improve on that?
Hmm.
No, I think that that was good enough.
Yeah.
Like it's fundamental. Or,
Yeah.
yeah, I could have done one or two more, but I could have always done one or two more. So, no, it was just fine what I did. Was it perfect? No. Was it good enough? Like, was it effective?
Yeah.
And so I look at things as being able to do things to a level of very good 80% of the time. And
Hmm.
when I keep things at that very good level, 80% of the time, I back in the day at Life Skills College, I used to have to evaluate social work students. And
Mm-hmm.
my evaluation standard was if they could perform at an effective, very good level 80% of the time, that was excellence.
Yeah.
Because that 20% was required for improvement or evaluation or to challenge themselves to move forward in a different direction. That
Hmm.
was highly effective.
Yeah, for
So I
sure.
really enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah.
So I want to do the same thing with me. And I go, geez, that's a level of excellence. And I'm getting it done to that level.
Hmm.
How do I feel about your, like, Blair, do you feel okay about yourself? Actually, I feel better than okay. I feel pretty darn good
Yeah.
because I have a plan and it's in motion.
Hmm. Yeah.
The thing that really stops me is when I don't figure out a basic plan.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's my first thing that I need to do is set three things to attempt.
Hmm.
Because it's for me, it's always comes down to the rule of three.
Yeah.
Is have like plan A, plan B, plan C, or step one, step two, step three, and start thumping and ticking your way through it. And when you do step one, get another one so that you are back up to three again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just keep on rotating.
Hmm.
And procrastination gets easier
Hmm. Yeah.
as a
Your
result.
brain isn't trained that way.
It's not trained to just like, okay, what did you do after you played solitaire?
Like after I would play solitaire, I don't know. It would be different.
Exactly. That's my whole point,
Yeah.
is that is such an effective distraction that we lose the point of what we're distracting ourselves from.
Yeah. Well,
So
it's
that's
usually
something I love.
emotion.
Pardon me?
It's usually emotion. And that's something that
You're
you talked
right.
about on
And
the
it,
Blair Dunkley experience,
yeah,
is that procrastination is your brain's way of keeping you away from an unfriendly feeling.
right. So it's critical. But
Yeah.
when you get those three steps, whatever they are,
Hmm.
rule of three, you do it, even you take a break, even if you take a break and you actually do play solitaire.
Yeah.
But you've got knowledge of what to do next
Yeah.
after that, well, distraction or after that reward.
Yeah.
And so you can turn the thing that you distracted into a reward and then go forward from there.
Hmm.
So those are the things that are really critical to
Hmm.
keep in mind. Always that rule of three, like have three things. And
Yeah.
if you can't start with two,
Yeah.
but almost never start with one,
Hmm.
always figure out the second thing. Because if the first thing doesn't work or doesn't move you forward, you got to find the backup.
Yeah. And it keeps
Okay.
you in flow too.
It does.
Hmm.
And then you don't stop. I
Yeah.
used to have people like, I learned this the hard way back in the days of life skills. I was working with a person very closely and and giving them feedback and I had this chunk of feedback that was like an ace in the hole. That
Mm.
if I gave them that piece, that would be the thing that would sort of, shake them up and it would work. But I didn't want to play that card because I didn't have another card. And I
Mm.
held on to it and onto it and onto it. And finally, instead of holding on to it, my partner said to me, Blair, you got to find another ace.
Yeah.
Like what's something else, or at least a king
Yeah.
or a queen. Like get some other card that you're not playing your best or your only card with.
Yeah.
Get another one, then you can play the first one. Wow, was that ever profound advice
Hmm.
for a young 22-year-old or 23-year-old coach?
For sure.
That was like so important because then I didn't get stuck. I was able to stay resourceful, and that was huge.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, yeah, for procrastination, staying that curious and resourceful. Definitely those are big combating tools for that.
Yeah, so important, so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you would like to add here?
No, I think we've covered off everything that I wanted to. Take a look if you want to dive into it a little bit more. We've got 365, BDE 365. Why do I procrastinate? Um, a lot of these will be rolling around, and your procrastination tends to undermine your own self-confidence.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I do is when you get that rule of three in place and you've got those three things, and you know that what you've done, you've tested something, you may not be spot on, but you kept moving forward.
Hmm.
And when you evaluate the movement, you go, yeah, I did okay. I
Yeah.
didn't get the right answer here, but I kept on moving. And that answer, because it wasn't the right answer, did not stop me. And
Yeah.
I went to find something else.
Hmm.
That starts building this sense of resilience and resourcefulness.
Yeah.
And it gets you moving forward. And it's so critical.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a big deal. So the structuring of all of those things moving forward. Oh, the last thing here is that you don't want to be reliving.
Mm.
You want to be remembering.
Yeah.
And when you relive the situation, you're going to tie yourself into the emotions
Hmm.
that were always you had before the first time.
Yeah.
And so one of the things it tends to amplify the reason for not doing it or the reason to escape or whatever. But if you can just let that be a memory of what you did and then move forward, it's always about moving forward.
Yeah.
So please, procrastination delays movement.
Hmm.
Movement, action almost always makes you feel better. Even if it's not perfectly positive, at least you didn't stay still
Yeah.
and stuck. So, yeah, that's it for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that knowledge and a lot of tools that people can utilize to get out of that procrastination state.
You bet.
Thank you for watching. Continue learning by clicking one of the videos in front of you. Don't forget to subscribe and join our community for deeper dives into mind model mastery secrets. Give a like and leave a comment as we would love to engage with you more.